Hello, my beautiful people. This is Art from DJR Union, and let me just say that it is good to be back in front of the camera, bringing you guys some more content for Union Arena. Now, in this video, I want to do a little bit of a discussion with you guys about the couple of decks that unleashed itself out into the meta of Union Arena, specifically from the One Punch Man set. If you guys saw my earlier post, which was probably around yesterday, I recently took place in a rare battle for One Punch Man and ended up taking first place with none other than the Esper Sisters deck. Now, I ain't gonna lie, that rare battle was tough, and I mean was some tough competitions. We had a wide variety of decks ranging from Metal Bat to a combination of Speedo Sound Sonic and Monster Carnage, to even going as far as doing like a hybrid mix of like One Punch Man and Genos Disciple deck with a hints of Ibuki. And let me just say, those decks were tough. They were indeed tough. And they were no slouch to try to get over. But as you already know, at the end of the day, your boy went 3-0 and was able to take first place, winning the nice little winner's Saitama card that you see right here. But in that time, as well as in the times leading up to it, we did a whole bunch of tests with the Esper Sisters Deck to prepare myself for this rare battle, and I must say, I do have some opinions about this deck. I really do enjoy the deck. I think Esper Sisters is a very fun deck, very resourceful deck, as you probably saw in my earlier video, or in our earlier video for the Esper Sisters deck profile, and I'll probably continue to play that deck going forward in the future. However, this deck brought with it a couple of problems that could become an issue later on down the lifespan of Union Arena. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me break it down for you a little bit. You see, as I was playing against other players over at East Coast Anime, especially at the Rare Battle Tournament, this deck brought upon a lot of frustration with my opposing players. And to be quite frank, the reason for it is that this deck basically plays solitaire. And what I mean by this deck basically plays solitaire is that this deck revolves a whole bunch of around you doing a lot of things, but taking a lot of time to make those things happen. If I were to compare how this deck functions at times, I would compare it, like, say, if you're familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh! Or with how the current meta is shifting now, a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Really revolves around whoever goes first takes 10 to 15 minutes to do their turn to make an unbreakable board, and next thing you know, it's either you break that board or you just lose. Now, I wouldn't say the deck functions exactly as it does in Yu-Gi-Oh!, but I would say it relates more to the fact that it takes a very long turns. And that's mainly due to 3 specific cards that are in this deck. There's this card right here, this card, and this card. So you're probably asking, how do these cards promote these extended turns and these extended gameplay? Well, it's quite simple, really. If we look at Fubuki, starting off, as we all know, Fubuki is a card that once it's played or once it's rated, you're able to draw 2 cards. We all know that. But one of its secondary effects is that you're able to place 2 cards from your hand into the sideline to be able to grab any event card that is not a special trigger into your hand. Now, of course, to be able to grab any card that's not basically a kill card, that's pretty good, right? Well, that's where it kind of leads into the issue that we kind of have with this deck. You can grab any card that's not a special. And what card falls under that category? Finals. And what does finals do? They restand AP. Of course, who doesn't want to restand AP? It's pretty straightforward. I get more turns, I get more resources to do my things. Exactly. Now, let's pair that with Tatsumaki, the rated one. It has a nice little effect that the next event card that you play costs 1 less AP to cast it. And if we look at cards, like say in this case, Hero, it's a 3 energy, 1 action point that restands 2 AP. Now, you drop the requirement from 1 AP down to 0 AP, you basically have a free restand 2 AP cards. And this is where we start finding this little issue that we're having, where now, if you have multiple Fubukis onto the field, you can just loop this effect again, re-grab Hero, and constantly play it back over and over again, depending on how many cards you already have in your hand. And this is where it kind of promotes that toxic the gameplay, unfortunately. In this case, and what ends up happening is that when you constantly start restanding your APs, you are not only further extending your turns and taking longer turns, but you're kind of taking the fun away from your opponent in the sense that the way that Union Arena kind of established itself right now is it really revolves around your action economies. Typically, you only get 3 APs per turn, and you have to work with those 3 APs in order to gain your advantage against your opponent. Now, of course, with the restand 2 AP cards, they give you that little additional bit of play to be able to extend your actions. But when you start introducing cards that allow you to constantly use cards such as Hero or any other type of restand 2 AP cards in your deck, now you're just making excessive resources for yourself to be able to flood your board almost indefinitely. And this is not to say that it makes the deck super broken, because trust me, it really doesn't. There's been plenty of times where I use this strat, grab a whole bunch of restand AP cards and play them back again, and still end up losing my matches, because just because you're able to use that mechanic doesn't make it like completely over the top and overwhelming for your opponent. Because I have still lost plenty of games against fairly decent decks, even not in One Punch Man, because the power level of the deck is still the same. Of course, I still consider it a tier 1 deck, but it's not like groundbreaking, oh, this deck, these cards need to get hit, this card needs to get banned, or anything of that nature. Nothing of the sort. It's just that it promotes a very toxic style of play that really just does not make the game fun for the person who you're going up against. And one of the reasons why we, especially me personally, came into Union Arena, because we enjoy the fact that we're able to interact with our opponent and go back and forth with our opponent to have close games. That's the beauty of Union Arena as it is, as compared to card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, where there's hardly any type of interaction with your opponent. You're kind of just really just playing with yourself at that point. And where I kind of find the fear in this is that I feel as though Union Arena may continue this trend with future sets they release. This is not counting the sets that already exist over in the JP version, because I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I'm not gonna sit here and look at every single deck in JP of every IP that's already out. I'm not doing that junk. More so, it's more a matter of the newer IPs that are coming to Union Arena as a whole, like say Full Metal Alchemist, Rurouni Kenshin, Kaiju number 8, and even recently I think JP got announced for ReZero a couple of weeks back. And quite frankly, we don't know what type of cards are going to be introduced in these sets, and we don't know what type of gameplay that they're going to come with them. And unfortunately, the fear that I have is that they're going to continue this trend of like, oh, we're just going to make more cards to just further restand your AP to continue extending your plays. And it's one thing when you have one deck that does it, but once you start having multiple decks that do it, and everybody's adopting that same strategy, you're kind of turning the game from its back and forth interaction into, again, people just playing with themselves to get a key card out to just win the match. And that's not the type of gameplay, or that's not the type of environment that I really wish for Union Arena to evolve into. Because this becomes very apparent once you have the mirror match. Like you're playing Esper Sisters against Esper Sisters, you can see or experience this firsthand, where your opponent just taking extended turns, restand their AP, to just dig for their resources to find answers to certain situations that present before them. Heck, it even got to the point during the rare battles where one of the people who I was playing against literally just got up and just looked around the store, because, no, don't get me wrong, it's not like I was slow playing or anything, but I was just taking extended turns, just restanding my AP. And to me, that just is an issue that can just evolve into a bigger issue if it's not taken care of right now. Now, I understand that Union Arena did try to take measures with this in the form of having Tatsumaki only being able to use that make a card basically free ability once per turn. It's just flat, regardless of how many Tatsumaki you have on the field, which It's a good call, don't get me wrong, but still, you're able to cast a card basically for free for only 4 energy and 1 AP. If we look at other cards that kind of does the same thing, like say for example, Unohana from Bleach Green, or even Gojo, the 6 energy 2 AP Gojo from JJK Yellow, they both have similar abilities, stating that the next card you cast is 1 AP or basically free. But if we look at the requirements to bring forth those conditions, for Gojo, it's 6 energy 2 AP. It's justified as to why the cost is so high, because you get such a high return off it. Same thing for Unoha, or I'm pretty sure I just butchered her name, but basically she's 6 energy 1 AP, and I think if I remember the effect correctly, you dig through the top 4 and you could grab it's either a character card or a Kenpachi, 1 of the 2, and then the next character card you play is 1 less energy, 1 less AP to cast. Again, another good effect where you're able to play cards for free. Heck, even Neon, when Neon's broken, that card needs to be banned. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that these cards that allow you to cast cards for free have high requirements that need to be met. Whereas for Taisumaki, you don't really need to meet as high as a requirement to start utilizing an effect to basically start playing cards for free. Next, let's look at Fubuki. Now, again, good effort on Unarena's side to limit Fubuki to not be able to grab special cards, because you'll just be grabbing special cards all day, every day, just nuking your enemy's entire board. But where they probably should have done was not only limited to just special cards, but limited to special and final cards as well. So that way you are not left in the situation where your opponent is just re-grabbing re-stand AP cards and just spamming them all day, every day, especially if they have 8 to 10 cards in their hand. So I think that's probably what they should have done with the deck now, or with the card design itself. Now, regardless of whether it will hurt the deck significantly, I honestly don't think so. I think the deck could still be very viable even without that specific effect. But I just feel as though it's just something that Jay probably should have took a closer look at before putting it out into the open. Once again, I'm not dogging on the Esper Sisters deck by any means, because like I said, I personally played the deck. As you saw, I won the One Punch Man rare battle with the deck, and I'm working towards blinging out the entire deck itself. It's just that if they do not stop this trend now while it's beginning, even with power creep on the rise, because we all know power creep happens with every card game. There hasn't been a card game where it's not power creep. It's going to cause a lot of issues down the line, especially with new players that want to get into Union Arena and is waiting for their favorite IP to come out here in the West. It's going to be they're going to be disappointed to find out that once they have this deck and start playing their favorite deck, just to see this toxic gameplay of just us taking 5-10 minute turns just to get all our pieces together to basically win the game. So that's basically my concerns that I really have with the deck. I like, even though I like the deck, I'm not going to sit here and lie that it does have toxic aspects. As I always say, this deck is a little bit too sour and probably not as sweet. But why don't you guys let me know your opinions about the deck and how you guys feel as though this deck or this style of play might affect the meta going forward? Do you guys think that Union Arena should put a cap on this now, before it really becomes an issue? Or do you think that they should promote more cards like this and push the meta towards this type of style of play? Me personally, I don't think they should. I really think they should keep it to the point where it's just back and forth interactions and you have a limited amount of APs to work with to keep the game balanced in that sense. But like I said, everybody has their own opinions and everybody has their own perspectives on how they perceive the game. So, like I said, this is just my thoughts about it. I appreciate that I was able to take the win. And yeah, there was a lot of tough decks that I had to beat. So stay tuned, because we have a lot more stuff that we want to bring to y'all in the future that we have in store and that we are excited to bring forth to you. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say and get off my chest, really. So with that being the case, I've been R from DJR Union. I hope you guys have a fantastic day.